Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I bring you guys our Week 8 matchup here for the NPA. The Minnesota Vikavolts are taking on the United Kingler and coach Professor Willow, the professor without a PhD. Now, I don't know much about Professor Willow, but I do know that they took over the team mid-season, made a bunch of changes, and have done pretty well. I think they're 3-0 since they picked up the team, but I think they're 3-3 or 3-4 or 4-3, one of the two, something like that, in terms of their win-loss ratio so far. I'm going to break down their team, I'm going to break down our team, why we're bringing what we're bringing, and so on and so forth. So hit that like button down below if you're excited. We are currently sitting at 5-2, right in the thick of the playoff race. We have a very tough division. Our division actually has the best records overall, so I still am fighting for this playoff spot despite the fact that we're 5-2. So every game is super crucial, but we gotta win. That's really what it comes down to. We gotta win this week. So let's look at the Kinglers team. They got a Latios, of course, known for dropping Dracos. Very, very hard-hitting Pokemon with 110 base speed, 130 special attack. Does have the option of defog, and really that's the only hazard removing option that you're going to see viably on Professor Willow's team aside from Rapid Spinning Torkoal. Diggersby is a very, very big threat, and this team looks so much like Gator's team that we just played in the GBA, or that we're playing in the GBA this weekend, you'll see. But the Diggersby, of course, with the huge power, just hits incredibly hard, does have priority through quick attack. A little bit slow though, 78 base speed, typically easy to be outsped, but I expect Willow to potentially bring it as a choice scarfer, or at least as an agility sweeper. Doublade, of course, very, very bulky Pokemon with Eviolite, annoying Pokemon, and I'll have flashbacks forever facing this thing, but it does have a lot of bulk, a lot of physical bulk, can take hits pretty well. Rotom Cut or Rotom Mow, of course, one of the lesser used Rotom forms with the grass typing. Still pretty good though. Leaf Storm leaves a bit to be desired, not quite as good as Hydro Pump on Rotom Wash, and Volt Switch, Will-O-Wisp, Pain Split, that kind of stuff. We see a Regirock, of course, very, very bulky Pokemon that can set up hazards. Chatot, which you could laugh at Chatot and think it's just funny, but I do have this fly weakness on my team that's only really stopped by things like, you know, Barbaracle and Alolan Sandslash. So Chatot could be really annoying for our team with Boom Burst. I got a Gyarados, Mega Gyarados, so my opponent has a Mega. I do not have a Mega, but Mega Gyarados, very, very big threat, especially since it has that Mold Breaker ability. Its Dark-type moves are going to be hitting through Necrozma's Prism Armor. That could prove to be annoying. Torkoal now has Drought, of course, in Generation 7, giving it access to Set the Sunlight, which does hinder some of Willow's team, like the Gyarados, but also can be really annoying to deal with as well, especially considering we have Ninetales and Sandslash. Alomomola, just an annoying, fat, wish-passing shenanigans, but Alomomola tends to be setup fodder, so you can usually set up in front of it. We'll try to take advantage of that if he brings it. Gothitelle does not have Shadow Tag. It only has competitive, I believe, but Gothitelle, otherwise just a Psychic Pokemon. Pretty bulky, can set Trick Room, but otherwise doesn't do much else. And Tangela, of course, very bulky with the Eviolite. Regenerator Core with Alomomola can be quite annoying. So in terms of what I'm expecting, I think we're definitely going to see the Latios. We're definitely going to see the Gyarados. We're definitely going to see the Diggersby, pretty sure, although I hope Diggersby doesn't come. And we're going to see the Torkoal. I think those four are pretty safe to assume. I think the lineup will be rounded out by Doublade and Alomomola personally, but we might see some variation of the rest, like some memes could be with Chatot. That could actually do some work. But I think we're going to see the Torkoal, the Gyarados, and the Latios. And the reason why I say that is I think Torkoal has to come to stop our hail. Just looking at the team, you can see that Alolan Sandslash just absolutely rips through the Kinglers team. Ice-type stab beats Latios and Diggersby, and I can Earthquake or Ground EMZ into the Doublade. Ice, I mean, you could just see Steel hits the Regirock. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I could run like Savage Spin Out, X-Scissor for the, you know, for the Gyarados. So I think Torkoal has to come to stop the Hail. And even though, like I said, Hail does have a good matchup in this, especially with like Freeze Dry against Alomomola, I'm actually opting to not bring the Hail, and you'll see why. But let's break down our team here and kind of why I composed it the way I did, how I composed it, and so on and so forth. So the first thing we're going to be bringing this week is going to be Infernape. So our Infernape here is pretty beast mode in this match. Willow's team is relatively slow aside from the Latios. Otherwise, you got the Chatot at 91, Mega Gyarados at 81, and Diggersby at 78, Rotom Cut at 86, but I'm less concerned about that. So here's our Rafiki, which sits at 311 base speed. We're running Adamant Nature. I'm running basically enough speed on this thing to outpace, I believe, the Rotom Cut. 236 speed. That should put us above Rotom Cut if he's not scarfed like Tim and max speed. It seems unlikely, but nevertheless. Mach Punch, Close Combat, U-Turn, Flare Blitz. I was going to run Life Orb, but I really needed Flare Blitz, and I didn't like to duplicate the recoil there, especially if like Rocky Head Alomomola comes. So I can kind of work with Expert Belt and bluff a Choice Scarf, which could be really useful for us. Mach Punch is incredibly crucial in this set. We use it as a revenge killer for Mega Gyarados. It serves as a revenge killer for Diggersby. We do about 70 to 85% to standard Diggersby with our Mach Punch, and we do about 50 to 60% to standard Gyarados with our Mach Punch. So those two right there are really crucial. Close combat obviously just hits things hard, like Regirock, stuff like that. We can dent the Alomomola with close combat, not much, but we can. And Torkoal after rocks can be 2-hit KO'd by close combat after rocks, but it depends on its spread. The Life Orb would guarantee that, but to me, I figured I'd U-turn out on Torkoal because I have a couple of different switch-ins to that anyway. So this thing's primary focus is, primary focus is to, you know, to provide a revenge option to things like that Diggersby and that Gyarados because they're such huge threats to my team. So if they set up, I need that priority. The next Pokemon we're bringing is making its season debut. Our mascot is going to be Overdrive, the Shiny Vikavolts, Modest, Levitate, Electrium Z, Bug Buzz, Thunderbolt, Agility, Energy Ball. Enough speed that after an Agility, we outspeed Latios, which is pretty clutch. We're going to outspeed things like Alomomola, Tangela, Torkoal, Doublade, things like that automatically. The great thing about this is that Electrium Z allows us to one-shot things like Doublade and Torkoal, which is pretty sweet. Energy Ball has a chance to one-shot Diggersby depending on the spread after rocks. It definitely does. Bug Buzz one-shots, you know, the Gyarados, and obviously Thunderbolt will beat the Gyarados. Bug Buzz one-shots the Latios. I mean, it almost feels like Vikavolt was made for this match right here. If I can get that agility up and he's not Scarf Diggersby, or if I can get that agility up and get rid of Diggersby, we can just win the game. Like, it is insane how good this Pokemon is against his team, and that Electrium Z really helps us put that extra bit of damage against him, especially against things like Torkoal and Doublade, which otherwise would be able to live a hit and retaliate back with some big damage, but we can just roast him there with the Gigavolt Havoc. So, I mean, this is the monster right here. I got it on my shirt. You guys can pick up a shirt in the description below, but this is the moment right here, making its season debut, and this is the match for it, man. It's crazy how on paper it just obliterates Willow's team. So not necessarily my only win condition, but one of the primary strategies, especially with things like Alomomola, Tangela, Rotom. I could send this thing into those and set up an agility pretty easily. So can't be paralyzed. I could be toxic, but we still have a few turns to fire off hits. Could be really, really good for us. Could be really, really good for us. The next Pokemon we're bringing is our Shaymin Meadow here with a pretty unique EV spread. We're running max HP, 100 defense, 44 special attack, 108 speed. That 108 speed is going to allow us to outspeed, I believe it's simply the Mega Gyarados before Dragon Dance. Rotom still outspeeds me, but that's fine. Rotom can't do much to me. He's just going to U-turn or Volt Switch out, I'm sorry. So I kind of want him to Volt Switch out. But Seed Flare just hits things really hard. Earth Power for the Doublade. We two-shot the Doublade, standard Doublade, unless he's Spadef. We also hit the Torkoal really hard, which is nice. Leech Seed is beautiful. We're going to spread that Leech Seed across his team. You know, really mess some stuff up. This is a 1,000,000% switch into Alomomola. I can switch into anything Alomomola wants to do to me. There's nothing it can do to me. If he burns me, I get Natural Cure. We got the lefties there. Lots of recovery with Synthesis. This is my way to deal with Gyarados. I can take 2 crunches from Gyarados. We can do a tremendous amount of damage back with Seed Flare. We can Synthesis up on it, so he tries to set up on us. We can take those hits. Gyarados is a huge threat, so this is my way to deal with it. It also serves a good switch into Earthquake from Diggersby, but return from Diggersby still hurts, but at least we outspeed it. So that's kind of the good thing. So that's kind of what's going on with Shaymin here. Shaymin is a super important piece of this puzzle. Can't really do much to things like Latios, but Leech Seeding the Latios and wearing it down is going to be kind of one of our primary strategies. And one of the ways we get rid of the Latios is you're going to see right now with our Steve here. Crocodile coming out, Jolly, Intimidate, Choice Scarf. We run max speed this week with the Choice Scarf just to make sure we're going to outspeed Chatot no matter what. I don't want to deal with a Scarf Chatot that just blows through my team. But knock off Earthquake, Pursuit, Low Kick. Low Kick does the same amount of damage as Superpower on Gyarados, on Diggersby, on Regirock. So maybe not Diggersby, but at least does it on Regirock and Gyarados. So I felt like Low Kick was better than Superpower, so we don't take that damage drop. But Pursuit does over 50% to Latios, standard Latios. He might not think I'm Scarf because I'm running Intimidate, part of the reason I'm doing that. That also allows me to switch into Gyarados, and we can take a Waterfall if we need to after the Intimidate, which is kind of cool. It also gives me kind of a weird switch into Diggersby, but it gives me something that can potentially take a return from Diggersby, because that thing's just a monster. But Pursuit, we can Pursuit Trap the Latios. If I could just get some chip damage on it, I could send this thing in and we can either knock off or Pursuit the Latios and it's dead. Like, if Latios switches out, it's dead. Doesn't matter. If it stays in, we do 50%. So it's kind of a great revenger to that. So if he kills something with Latios, which is very difficult for my team, we can at least get rid of it on the following turn. That could grant him opportunities to set up with things like Gyarados, so we do have to be careful about that. But nevertheless, it's a really good Pokemon. Earthquake, obviously, for Doublade. Knockoff just hits everything pretty well and helps whittle down his team. We can beat the Torkoal with the Earthquake and stuff. So Crocodile, pretty important member, and that's why we had to Scarf it this week. we are bringing Goodra, baby. Slime Shady, but a very different Slime Shady than what you're used to seeing. I brought Assault Vest Slime Shady every single week, but we're bringing that timid, max speed Goodra, baby. I'm running timid max speed enough to outspeed Diggersby. I don't know if he's gonna run Scarf Diggersby. I think he would run Scarf Diggersby personally. I think that's what he's gonna bring, but I wanted to make sure I could outspeed it regardless. So we're running max special attack, max speed, Dragon Pulse, Fire Blast, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, the Bolt Beam coverage. This allows me to take on things like Torkoal incredibly well. It allows me to, I can take a hit from Gyarados and Thunderbolt it. I can take a potential Draco if he's not Life Orb from the Latios. We one-shot the Diggersby with Ice Beam 50% of the time, so after Life Orb or after Stealth Rocks, we can get that one shot most of the time. Fire Blast, Roast Blade, and we can switch into things like Rotom's Leaf Storm and Volt Switches. We can switch into Tangela all day with Sap Sipper, so if he tries to Sleep Powder us, we can switch into that. I mean, this thing can switch into so many things. It can take on the Regirock relatively well by at least hitting it pretty hard on the special side with Dragon Pulse. So this thing is weird to run max speed Goodra, not something that I really thought I was going to be bringing this season, but I really felt it matched up relatively well against this team, and you know, especially with that Diggersby being such a huge threat to me, I felt like being able to outspeed that thing if he's not Scarf Diggersby was going to be worth it, especially with the Ice Beam, because if he otherwise, like, he could just destroy a lot of our team. So I felt like that was pretty fair. And then last but most certainly not least is going to be our Necrozma here. You've seen it many times this season. I brought some pretty funky Necrozma sets, all defensive though. Still haven't broken out that offensive variant, but that might be coming soon. But this one's Stealth Rock, Morning Sun, X Scissors, Psychic. This thing is designed to basically give me something to switch into Latios, because otherwise I can't switch into Latios. It's very, very difficult for us to deal with. If he's Calm Mind, we have the X Scissor, which is nice, which does about 50% to standard Latios. X Scissor does about 30% to Gyarados if we're not intimidated, so at least we can hit that thing for some chip damage, and we can potentially take some hits from it. We can take 1 or 2 crunches. Psychic just hits everything else relatively well. It hits the Torkoal, it hits the Alamola for a decent amount. Can hit the Rotom, things like that. I mean, we have the X Scissor there, but I just wanted something for direct damage. But really, this thing is meant to set up Stealth Rocks, give me a pivot into Latios, you know, maybe hit that thing a little bit with the X Scissor. After an X Scissor, even if he knocks me out, then that means Pursuit from Crook does kill him. So that's a nice thing about that. So Eclipse does give me some options there, and hopefully it'll be able to live some hits and kind of sponge some hits. I don't expect it to be like anything that gets a lot of kills this match. It's really meant as a way for me to deal with something like Latios, because otherwise I can't switch into that thing. It's just an insane monster, so it's very difficult for us to switch into. So that's kind of our game plan here. We got Infernape, which is ready to Mach Punch as a revenge killer. Vikavolt can set up and just sweep in this game if I get that agility up at the right time. We have to scout some sets before we do it, but he's got a couple Pokemon on his team that really open the door for Vikavolt, like that Alamola, like that Rotom, like that Tangela. You know, if he drops a Draco, we can go switch into that thing knowing he's -2 special attack, set up an agility, and we can sweep with Energy Ball, Bug Buzz, and Thunderbolt. We got the Gigavolt Havoc there, so lots of options there for Vikavolt. Shaymin serves a pivot in for Gyarados. It can take some hits from Diggersby, and also provides me with some options to take on things like Alamola really well. 100% switch into that. Crook, obviously, with the Scarf could be super useful, especially mid-late game. Goodra, offensive Goodra with some speed investment in case he doesn't bring Scarf Diggersby, which I still think he's going to, but nevertheless. And then Necrozma as our primary response to Latios. So that's our team right there, guys. I hope you enjoyed our team builder. If you have any questions or anything, leave them in the comments section below. Get excited for our match tomorrow against Professor Willow. Should be a pretty epic one. They've done really well this season, and I'm excited for this game. Should be pretty nuts. So that's gonna be it for me, guys. My name is Dan. I'll talk about aDrive, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. Peace.